The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, BP Cherry Point, Washington, on your new Pierce Fire Aerial Apparatus, job number 37147. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started on a brief orientation. First, let's take a look at the vehicle on both the passenger and driver side. And then we'll focus in on the cab section starting on the passenger side, with the front axle where you'll find Goodyear tires, Alcoa wheel, and a visual sight gauge indicator in the front axle. On the front bumper extension, a side-facing emergency warning light. Moving up from that location to the headlight structure on the outer edge, you'll find your turn indicator marker light. Easily accessible with a gloved hand. These are your door lock and latch combination. They are keyed. And then right next to that is where you'll find the grab handle for gaining entry and exit into the vehicle and out. Directly over the front axle, you'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. And as we move up to the very top, you'll find a side-facing upper cab scene light. Moving forward to this location over the officer seat is where you'll find on the roof an emergency warning light. Moving to the forward section of the basket on the outer edge, you'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. Let's move now to the body section where you'll find the 2 forward and rear stabilizers. Just to the rear section behind the rear axle is where you'll find the stabilizer pads. There are 2 located on this side. Moving just forward to that location is your exhaust, and then also you have 2 folding wheel chocks located in a storage location just in front of the rear axle. Moving now just in front of the rear axle, you'll find a turn indicator marker light, and then also portions of your lower emergency warning lights. Moving up onto the top section of the body, just over the top of the stabilizer is where you'll find the stabilizer camera, and then also 2 side-facing scene lights. Let's move around to the rear of the apparatus. We'll start on the outer edge with an arm light. This is a marker turn indicator arm light that is rubber. Also, you'll find the cluster housing an emergency light, backup light, turn indicator, and stop brake light. Also, as we move just inside that location, you'll find 2 attachment points. Just as a reminder, direct pull on those attachment points. In the very center, you'll find the American flag eagle. That's your large diameter inlet. Also, a pan door located on the driver's side. We'll go over the contents of that in just a few moments. And as we move up, you'll find a rear-facing scene light, and above that, an emergency warning light. And at the very top section, we have an additional rear-facing scene lights that are directional. Located directly in the center is where you'll find your backup camera. Then as we move just to the right location, you'll find another pan door. This is for your hose chute. General view here of the body side, and then we'll move into the cab section. Same configuration and layout as you have on the opposite side. Front axle, visual sight gauge indicator, Goodyear tire and Alcoa wheel. Front bumper extension with a side-facing emergency warning light. Also, once again, grab handles and latches are located at the door section. They are also keyed and easily accessible with a gloved hand. Right next to it, once again, is the grab handle. And then as we move just to the rear of that grab handle, you'll find the auto eject. This is your shoreline inlet, and it does have an indicator when plugged into shoreline power that will become active. Right next to it, you'll find an emergency warning light. As we move up to the very top section, emergency warning light bar located over the driver's seat area. And then just to the rear of that, you'll find a side-facing scene light. Moving back to the forward section of the basket is where you'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. Let's take a look at the front of the vehicle. Starting in the bottom, we have 2 open-ended tow hooks. Moving up onto the face of the bumper, your mechanical siren on the passenger side. Just inside that location, inside the frame rail, you'll find your siren and PA speakers. Moving over to the driver's side, you'll find dual air horns. Moving up onto the cab face, you'll find on the outer edge the marker turn indicator light. Just inside that location is the headlights housing low and high beam headlights. The high beam located on the inside of the cluster will be the high beam. Also just above that, emergency warning light cluster directly above that. And as we move to the Pierce logo, directly behind that, you'll find the release mechanism for gaining access into the hood area, which we'll go over in just a few moments. There are 3 windshield wipers across the seamless one-piece windshield. And as we move to the A-pillar, it's where you'll find your flat and convex mirror, both on the passenger and driver's side. Across the brow is where you'll find your identification clearance lights. There are 5. And then as we move up onto the actual basket portion, we do have emergency warning lights forward facing. As we move to the very center, you'll find your Opticom system. And then moving up to the very top section of the basket is where you'll find additional scene lights. Let's take a look at the basket itself, where you'll find 2 discharges located here, MasterStream devices. Those MasterStreams also have the ability to have 2.5-inch discharges located on the very bottom section of those. In the very center, once again, Opticom system. Moving further up your life bracket, you'll see on both right and left sides. And then further up to the very top, this is a close-up here of your forward-facing scene lights. Let's take a look at the under section of the basket area. First, we'll start in the center area where there are 2 bumpers located, one on the passenger and driver's side. As we move toward the center, you'll find your downward sprinkler. And then just forward of that location, you'll find the aerial drain. Moving toward the rear section, you'll find 2 attachment points. There are also drop-down covers located here for visual inspection and maintenance. Let's look now into the hood area where you'll find the fill location for your windshield wiper fluid on the passenger side. As we move toward the driver, this is your radiator recovery and fill location. You'll also find a placard here indicating caution and danger information regarding your cab tilt. There are instructions to raise and also to lower the cab located on this placard. There is a remote. It is the yellow and black tipped push button. That is the activation switch. As far as the cab lift or lower, there is a protected switch located here for that indication. Just to the right, you'll find your power steering location. There's a visual sight gauge and fill location here. Let's take a close-up look at the wheel, where you'll find once again Goodyear tire, Alcoa wheel, and a visual sight gauge. We'll move to the side of the apparatus, where you'll find the Shoreline inlet, auto eject 20 amp, and it will activate your auto charge system. Let's go ahead and move inside the cab of the vehicle. We'll start first on the driver's side, and we'll start first with the door panel. Affixed to the door panel, safety and warning placard information. Moving up from this location is a combination door latch and lock. Lock is located in the center. There is electric window controls for all 4 windows and also a grab handle. Let's move down into the cab area. We'll start first at the base of the seat area with this yellow placard, manufacturing placard here from Pierce Manufacturing, indicating the date of manufacture, 5-digit job number, gross vehicle weight rating, cold tire inflation, the VIN number, fluid capacities for each component, fluid capacity, and also fluid type. Let's move down to about the left knee of the operator, where you'll find these switches: ABS diagnostics, DPF regen, engine diagnostics, and regen inhibit. Also some ports here. This is your engine transmission ABS diagnostic port. We also have a tech module port and then also a display port. These are for access here for your maintenance team. Let's move from this location and we'll move just to the right of the steering column, where you'll find your inter-axle differential lock. Moving now up to the steering. And as we move to the dash area, we'll start on the left with the 4-way flashers, start and ignition switch, moving just inside of that to an EM switch, which stands for Emergency Master, headlight switch, and also panel switch, which allows you to brighten or dim lights within preview of the operator's dash area. To the opposite side of the steering column, you'll find the OK to engage the high idle indicator and switch. Moving up to the dash cluster, you'll find on the left We have your transmission, oil, depth level, and water temperature gauges. And on the right side, you'll find the volts, fuel, front and rear air. Directly in the center is the tachometer and speedometer. Diagnostic information will display above and below the tachometer. Let's move just to the right of the operator's space. Starting on the left, you'll find the pull to apply your system parking brake and push to release. It's the yellow diamond. Just to the right is where you'll find your Pierce command zone, tremendous amount of information, function button, and also touch screen. To the right, your Allison transmission pad. And as we move back to that Pierce command zone, just see your owner's manual for more information. A tremendous amount of information is available right here. Allison transmission, push button, digital, and also an informational note to pump in drive. We do have some switches located here for the aerial master, aerial PTO, platform leveling, and stabilizer cameras. Just below that, we have a boom sign lights, and then also load manager, engine brake on and off, setting switch for low, medium, and high, off-road traction, and mirror heat. To the right, you'll find your instructions here from road to pump, and then also from pump to road. This is your pump shift. Just as a reminder, 2 green indicators, pump engaged and OK to pump, need to be illuminating before exiting the cab for pump operations. Also some caution and warning placards below that. Emergency shutdown, push to activate, and pull to reset. That's the blue switch. Climate control located in the very center for heat, air conditioning, and defrost. Overhead of the driver's position, you'll find this yellow placard indicating the height of the vehicle, 12 feet 5 inches. Length of the vehicle, 47 feet 4 inches. Gross vehicle weight rating, 89,000 pounds. Also, you'll find the 5-digit job number located in the lower section. Emergency warning light cluster, roof light, front warning, side warning, lower rear warning, upper rear warning, and high beam flash. Also a spare switch. When these switches have been deployed, the light will illuminate green around the edge of that switch, indicating it's on. We have an air horn, electronic siren, mechanical siren, and also for your mechanical siren, a siren brake. Moving further to the right, additional switches for scene lights. This is your driver scene, passenger scene, rear scene, and side scene. Also some additional storage locations here in the switch panel area. As we move just underneath this location, on the very bottom section, it's where you'll find the Firecom wireless base station intercom module. As we move toward the center of the vehicle, you'll find your seatbelt information. Red, someone is in the seat and not belted. Green, they're in the seat and belted. You'll also find an informational light flashing, which means do not move your apparatus when the light is on. You may have a compartment or door open. Just a quick view here at the rear cab wall. There are 2 forward-facing seats that house SCBAs. Directly behind the driver's seat is where you'll find the manual control for cab tilt, and then also your air compressor. When plugged into Shoreline Power, this will maintain brake pressure. That's the outlet on the side, which is supplying from Shoreline Power. Let's move back to the exterior of the vehicle. We do have a 343 always remember, never forget placard. And then as we move to the rear section, a fixed door panel, safety and warning placard information. As we move back to the rest of the cab area, let's go inside the cab section. We'll identify 2 forward-facing and 2 rear-facing seats. Overhead, you'll find your push on and off red or white lens lights. All 4 seats in the rear do house SCBA brackets for your SCBA bottles. There are also box lights on both the passenger and driver side located here that will charge when plugged into Shoreline Power. And at the very rear section, you'll find your daily checks for oil and transmission checks. General view just around the rear portion of the cab area. Underneath the 2 forward-facing, we do have a seat riser with access storage. Let's go ahead and move back to the exterior portion of the vehicle. We'll start with the pump panel next, starting first at the very top with your crosslays, and then we'll move to the pump gauges. This is the crosslay section. There are 2 releases on the right and left side. This houses your number 1 and number 2 crosslay. Both of those are foam capable. We do have a master pump intake gauge and also a master pump discharge gauge. In between the two of those are the test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure, and these are currently plugged and are utilized for testing purposes. Let's move down onto the panel itself. You'll find your two MasterStream devices on the driver's side and officer side. This is the control module for those. And then all of your electric valves located here for each of those discharges. They are color-coded and also labeled. The red indication with foam indicating it is a foam-capable discharge. We do have a switch panel and also an indicator for OK to pump, Husky pressure, and also an evacuation push button, which is the red push button just below this area. On the right side, we have foam tank level indicators for foam tank A and foam tank B. We have training and main foam. And then moving to the right, we'll have your pressure throttle governor. And then a warning placard at the very top section when climbing onto the vehicle. Always face the vehicle while climbing on or off. Just below that, you do have a pump overheat indicator. It has a visual indicator, and then also there are two audible alarms located here, one for your pump boss and then one for the overheat. You also have a fuel gauge and also an intake relief. There are instructions for its operation on the actual placard. Just above that is where you'll find the audible speakers. The outer edge of that bezel does rotate to increase or decrease sound. We have an engine cooler, and then also right next to it we have a pavement cooler which will spray in front of your exhaust. Let's move down on the pump panel down to the lower left corner of the pump panel where you'll find an air inlet outlet and also control valve. There is also a 2.5-inch discharge, and then the driver's side main inlet, which is the American flag Eagle Pierce logo. As we move up to the top, just as a reminder, warning, only trained personnel should operate this piece of equipment, and that's only after proper training. Also, because of this aerial being an aerial device, this is a non-insulated aerial device, and this is danger regarding electrocution hazard. Let's move to the right of the pump panel where you'll find your Husky manual override. There are instructions for its operation on the actual red placard. Moving to the right, you'll find your foam system activation switches, and also whether you choose foam tank A or foam tank B. There are instructions on this placard also for its operation and also operating parameters. In the very top section, you'll find your fire pump primer, minimum operation at least 1,000 for best practices on the RPMs. We also have just below that a visual indicator for Husky over temperature on the hydraulic oil. Moving to the right, your vehicle is equipped with a Darley pump. This is the information regarding that pump, and then just beneath that is where you're going to find your maintenance placard. Let's go over the maintenance placard next. The capacity of your Darley pump is 3,000 GPM. There are the minimum operation standards for 150, 200, and 250 PSI. As we move down, you'll find a 2.5-inch foam outlet. It is locally controlled via ball valve. As we move just to the right of this location, we'll also find an additional 2.5-inch inlet and also a warning placard here indicating do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam for the possibility of foam failure. This is the location for your manual pump shift and also fire pump main drain. Moving just underneath the running board, this is going to be for your air tank drains. They are all individually controlled. There is also a pull-out and expandable step here for pump operations. Just above the location of the stabilizer is where you'll find an additional access pan door. This is where your battery charger is located. Once again, when plugged into Shoreline Power, this will become active, maintaining your battery charge. Just like to point out, we do have crush injury warning here. Because of the movement of those stabilizers, we do have the ability for crush injury. Also regarding a danger placard here regarding electrocution hazard. As we move through the rest of the compartments, let's take a look inside. First, we'll start in the very front compartment where you have a toolbox located here. Just underneath that compartment is where you'll find the storage location for your wheel chocks. There are two located here and are folding wheel chocks. You'll also find the location for your foam tank inlet outlet. It's a ball valve located just in front of the rear axle. Let's move just in front of the rear axle where you'll find the blue cap, which is your fill location for your DEF tank. This is a 4.5 gallon DEF tank. There is also next to it an SCBA bottle storage location. As we move to the tandem axle, once again, Goodyear tires and Alcoa wheels. As we move to the center between those two axles, you'll find SCBA bottle storage here for 3 bottles with retaining straps. As we move to the rear of the axle, you'll find the silver cap. This is your ultra low sulfur diesel fill location. Moving just to the right of that location, you'll also find a single SCBA bottle storage location. As we move back to the rear stabilizer area, you'll find once again a crush injury warning because of the movement of that stabilizer. Also, as we move up to the very top, you'll also find your camera for placement of that stabilizer. In between the pull-out steps is an inclinometer, both front to rear. General view, all compartments open now. And we'll move around to the rear section of the apparatus. First, let's start down in the lower left-hand side in the image, where you'll find a warning regarding fall hazard. Always when climbing on or off the vehicle, face the vehicle. We do have some switches located here for your rear floodlights and also rear scene lights. Moving just inside this location, you'll find a pan door. This is the access location for your stabilizers. We do have some caution, danger, and warning placards located here. Because of the high pressure fluids, also aerial stability, and also tip over hazard when you choose to short jack the vehicle. As we move to the right, you'll find a push button. This is the emergency stop push button. Also to the right, you'll find an override, which is a protected switch. And then further to the right, you'll find a indicator, which is green, indicating stabilizer power. And then further to the right behind the cap here is going to be for your maintenance team for plugging in their computers. Just below that section is where you're going to find the remote. This is a tethered remote for aerial stabilizers for the movement of each front and rear, left and right. You'll also find the attachment points here at the rear portion of the truck. These are for direct pull, and that's why we have some warning placards indicating on that. And also a warning regarding pressure hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. Aerial inlet, that's the very center, American flag eagle, Pierce logo, large diameter inlet for the aerial device. Also a gauge for that aerial device and an inclinometer left to right. As we look to the pan door just to the right, behind that is a 1.5 inch ball valve. That is your aerial drain. Let's move back to some of these items, or at least take a close-up of those. First, we'll start with the pan door area. As you can see inside, this is that aerial drain ball valve. As we move to the rear door roll-up section, you'll find 2 pull-out trays located here. They're independently controlled. As we move to the right, you'll find an entanglement warning. Because of the line coming from aloft here, there is the possibility of entanglement. Also, danger regarding electrocution hazard. Once again, this vehicle is non-insulated. Additional warning here, fall, never ride on the vehicle while it's in motion, and once again, always face the vehicle while climbing on or off. As we move to the passenger side into the stepwell area, this is where you're going to find your overrides here. We have an activation switch for aerial or stabilizer selector, and this also the independent valve action for each of the movements of that stabilizer device. There are instructions on the backside of the pan door. In addition, some danger and warning placards regarding high pressure fluid because you're operating within this area where those valves are located. And then also a tip over or structural failure hazard when you're choosing to short jack the vehicle on either one or the other sides. Also again, on that individual stabilizer, warning regarding crush injury hazard. And at the very top section, this is that side facing camera for those individual stabilizers. As we move now into the compartment, you'll find pull-out tray in the bottom section. Release is located on the right-hand side and an adjustable shelf. There's also ventilation and LED lights in all of your compartments. As we move just to the forward section, you'll also find SCBA bottle storage just to the rear of the axle. Goodyear tire, Alcoa wheel, and then once again in between the 2 axles, you'll find SCBA bottle storage for 3 bottles. Also with retaining straps, and then forward of the front axle is where you'll find an additional SCBA bottle storage location. I would like to point out this warning regarding extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures, especially during regen operations. Please be cautious where you choose to park your vehicle and also engage your pavement cooler if necessary. Moving into the next set of compartments, you can see pull-out tray in the lower section and then just one above that also. Release mechanisms on the right-hand side. Movement of that aerial stabilizer once again, and also information here regarding electrocution hazard. As we move now to the pump panel area, we'll start at the very top section. There are two crosslays located here, crosslay 1 and crosslay number 2. These are both foam capable crosslays. I would like to point out a warning regarding entanglement hazard. Because of those crosslays and height of those crosslays, there is the possibility of entanglement. This is your pump strainer behind the cap located here and behind the pan door. Additional access here for gaining onto the passenger side of the pump panel. Also warning regarding entanglement hazard. We've covered that before. And then as we move down to the very bottom section, an additional access door for gaining access into the panel. The panel is also removable. Those are the swell locks on the right and left. We do have quite a few intakes here. There are 3 located across the very center section. Also a foam refill, and then also passenger side auxiliary inlet. 2.5-inch locally controlled ball valve. Color-coded and labeled discharge drains. As we move forward to that location, just as a reminder, do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam for the possibility of foam failure. This is also your foam inlet, which is a 2.5-inch valve, locally controlled at the valve itself. A pull-out tray located on the underside underneath the portion of the running board. And as we move into the cab section, just as a reminder, we have warning placards located on the actual door panel, electric window control, door lock and latch, and a grab handle. Just a general view into the cab area. As we look behind the seat here in the forward section, which is directly behind the officer seat, this is where you'll find 12-volt access. This is a bus bar panel, and then also you'll find your unit radio located within this area also. We'll move now toward the front section of the cab area. Just a quick look at a few logos here, and then also as we move to the front axle visual sight gauge in the center, and then we'll go ahead and go interior into the cab section on the officer side. Let's start first with the door panel, safety and warning placard information, door lock and latch, electric window control, and a grab handle. As we look overhead from the officer's position, let's go ahead and take a look through the cab section. First, we'll start with the glove box located in the very forward section of the space. As we move just to the left, you'll find your PA system. You'll also find a few push buttons located here for the mechanical siren, electronic siren, and also air horn. Just inside that alcove here, you'll also find the FireCom headset module, and then right next to that, you'll find your electronic siren and PA speaker module. As we look overhead, you'll find push on and off white or red lens lights, also your unit radios. We do have an additional switch panel located here, houses the driver scene, passenger scene, rear scene, side scene, and a siren brake for your EQ2B, and then also an additional radio located just to the left of that toward the center area. Just underneath this storage location is where you'll find your wireless FireCom base station. And then we'll move back to the exterior with all compartments open. And we'll move now to the aerial device. We're at the rear portion of the aerial. We do have an additional access panels and doors here. We'll cover those next. Let's start at the very top section. We have a storage location for ladder belts. As we move just below that section, this is your air supply system for refill. And then as we move to the rear, you'll find your overrides for your aerial device. And then I would like to point out a warning regarding tipping hazard if you choose to short jack. As we move now to the pedestal, we'll cover a few items within this area. Let's start first at the forward section of the pedestal, where you'll find a audible speaker. There is volume control and a push to talk. Also, as we uncover, you'll find the emergency stop push button, the manual basket leveling disable, which is a protected switch, tracking lights and rope lights, and then also front basket lights. As we move down to the bottom, you'll find the aerial speed for slow, normal, or fast is a momentary switch. And then just to the right, the emergency hydraulic power. And then to the right, your Pierce command zone. Once again, tremendous amount of information, touchscreen, and also function buttons. As we move down, you'll find our nozzle control for both the right and left valve nozzle, and also ladder control for extend, retract, right, left, and lower and raise. Moving now to the cover section, you'll find some warning placards and also some danger placards. Please review these prior to operation, and also your NFPA 1911 placard for testing. Let's go over that real quick because we have a waterway. This is at a 35-mile-an-hour wind condition, waterway dry and waterway charged. Also, we also have monitor nozzle positions located just underneath that and a chart for the operation of those. And at the very bottom section, capacities also located here. Please review the asterisk information regarding freezing temperatures. Your aerial device ladder located in the very center top section of the truck. And then we'll move to the outer edge where you'll find a tool storage box. There is a minimum capacity for that storage box. Please visit that before loading any equipment within that area. As we move to the front section, you'll find the location for attaching your belts for safety. And then also you'll find warning here for the life eye for rappelling, the life winch, and then also the life ladder and life support. Right next to that is the intercom system. It is passive, so it's volume control only. Moving further to the right, you'll have breathing air locations here and also additional audible speakers located here. The outer edge of those bezels do rotate for brightening or dampening the sound, and they're pictured here as a little bit closer up. As we move to the front section, you'll find the command zone here. And as we move just to the left, you'll find the control module for ladder control. This is removable. There are locations for its operation to be placed in different areas within the ladder itself for gaining access or advantage visually. As we move to the front, you'll find your emergency stop, tracking for lights, nozzle control, and then also valve control. Also, you'll find the aerial speed for slow, normal, and fast. And then as we move down, you'll find the manual basket leveling. Once again, that's a protected switch, so you're making that conscious decision to move that. As we move back to some warning placards, we do have warning placards here regarding only trained personnel should operate this piece of equipment, and that's only after they received proper training. Some danger placard here, just as a reminder, the ladder device is non-insulated for electrocution hazard, and then also requirement here for fall restraint, which is required, and tipping hazard for its operation and how to do that. And then also, once again, pinch warning placard because of the movement of the aerial device. There's a possibility that you can become injured or killed. As we move to the placard, this is the same placard at the pedestal for waterway dry and waterway charged and nozzle positions load chart. Just a quick view around the exterior of the vehicle with our stabilizers deployed. As we look to the dunnage area, you can see the hose storage location on the right for your hose chute. Breathing air at the base of the pedestal area, just 4 of that location. The access for top fill for foam tank B and also warning placard, do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam. An additional tank, which is tank B, which appears to be a training foam. As we look into the hydraulic reservoir, there's a visual sight gauge on the rear portion of the tank and then a fill portion at the very top section of the tank. As we move toward the right and left side of the pump panel, you'll find your master stream devices located here. Moving into the dunnage areas where you'll find the refill for your aerial hydraulic system. As we move to the cab section, you'll find these warning placards indicating that this is a non-walking surface, and that's why we have these warning placards indicating that. The next set of images are that of the under section of the chassis and engine area. We'll go over those next. First, let's take a look for towing purposes. These are the actual towing locations. The forward are for operations for fire department use. That's the open-ended tow hooks. Just as a reminder, when you're raising your cab, please follow the cab lift instructions and also store this safety bar into position when the cab is fully extended on both right and left cylinders. Once this bar is placed into position, do not lower the cab onto the safety bar. Maintain equal pressure on both the right and left cab lift cylinders. We do have some additional warning information placard. Your vehicle is equipped with a TAC4 independent front suspension for ride quality and turning. This is a Cummins X12 engine. As you look to the rear portion of the engine, that's where you'll find your oil and transmission daily checks. Just underneath the batteries on the driver's side is where you'll find your termination jumper cable points. As we move to the rear of the battery, just on the inside where the frame rail is located, this is the fill location for your hydraulic cylinders. Just as a reminder, it will deplete when the cab has been raised. The next multiple images here, once again, the under portion of the chassis, and we'll come back around to the rear portion of the chassis and passenger side. No additional audio will be presented during this section of the under section of the chassis. This will complete the additional images here of the chassis area. Congratulations, BP Cherry Point, Washington, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 37147. If you have any questions regarding your vehicle, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you and congratulations.